Hello and welcome. I'm Ryan Pellin here with Holly Kester with Xable.com. We're here at the Colorado Convention Center bringing you action of the Slalom event sponsored by UPS. Now, Holly, you just went through this event and you got through it with pretty much, I mean, there were struggles, but you got through it. Tell us what it meant to go through that finish line.
I was very glad to see the finish line. The wheelchair obstacles course was set up to show the able-bodied community that all the different obstacles that we have to face in wheelchairs every single day, as far as going up the ramps, and some of the curb cuts are pretty steep, so and potholes in the road. So you know that some of these are things that we face every single day. We never know what we're going to run into.
Right on it, and it is, you know, an obstacle course, like you said, for everyday events, because in a wheelchair, you go through these type of obstacles like opening doors, you know, stairs, up ramps, and it's kind of like a rehab type thing, right?
Yes, it is. And you know, in order to make it more fun, that's when they put the time in. And they don't want it to be a speed course where you race through it. So that's why they put the tougher obstacles in, so that you have to muscle through it too. And I'll tell you, halfway through, I thought my arms were gonna break, you know, as far as being able to pop a wheelie. Usually it's no problem, but you just get over one obstacle and you go, whoo, I made it through. And then you got another one coming up.
And this obstacle right now that Richard Reynolds on, that's a pretty hard obstacle to get up, right?
Yes, it is. It's pretty steep, and one of the requirements is there's a yellow line that you have to cross. Your front casters have to go over it, so not just your front feet. So a couple of the athletes have gone over, like he's going over it again, even though he went up over the top of it, just his feet went over. So his front casters have to go over in order to qualify. Otherwise you DQ and go through all that work and don't get any credit. So nobody wants to DQ.
Now, what's the best like strategy to get up there? I've seen some people, you know, rear back and try to, you know, make speed away up there and turn around. I've seen guys try to muscle their way. What was your strategy to do this?
I found out the best way to do it is you have to, a lot of people say to power through it. So you want to hit it really hard. And then when you get up to so your wheels, all your front wheels have to do, or your back wheels have to go over that yellow line in the back. And then turn the corner. He's trying to go straight up, and that's where he's having the problem. And then once you get up, then you've got to lean in order to stay upwards, because you know, at being at an angle, you're getting pulled down. So you've got to lean towards that way. But because a lot of us as pairs don't have abs, it's hard for us to lean. So without leaning to one side, you know, we sort of get pulled to whichever way the ramp is slanted.
And one inspiration thing about, you know, these obstacles is, yeah, some athletes are going to struggle on certain obstacles, but they're not going to give up. They're gonna finish these obstacles that are, you know, like a challenge in front of them. They're not going to let anything, you know, like skip any events or skip any obstacles.
There's no way. I've been coming to these games for 20 years, and no matter how long it takes an athlete to get through, you can hear the crowd just yelling. And the more that you hear the crowd and everybody just wants you to make it, that's the main thing, is when you get through is being able to say, I made it through the course. Whether you get a medal or not, making it through this course, I mean, you just feel so good. That's the main goal, is just making it through the course.
And as you mentioned, there's a lot of fans and spectators here, and a lot of friends and families of the athletes. And if you're struggling, they're going to be behind you. You know, they're going to clap, they're going to cheer you on. Talk about how they kind of just help out an athlete, you know, get through these challenges.
Oh, you do it. You know, a lot of people, sometimes you block them out, but when you're starting to struggle and you take back and they say, you know, it's really good because the officials are out there and they tell you, take a deep breath. And when you stop and take a deep breath when you're struggling, you know, you can hear the fans in the background. And when they see you struggling, they cheer for you louder. It's sort of like, you know, everybody wants the underdog to win, you know, in games. So, you know, the ones that breeze through it, you know, well, heck, you know, they don't have any problems. It's the ones that are struggling that all the fans want to see make it to the course.
Yeah, and that it gives you, you know, a bit of an adrenaline rush, right?
Yes, it does. Yes.
because you're not going to let everybody. You're not only going to not let yourself down. You're not going to let anybody here cheering you down.
You don't want anybody to be. Nobody's going to quit, and no matter how long it takes you, you're going to be out there, and you know the fans will be out there cheering for you, and I mean they'll be out there. And as you saw at that, when I finished, everybody comes up and just gives you a hug and says, "Congratulations!" No matter how long it takes, they just want to see you make it through.
And it's got to be a bit of another adrenaline rush to see those, those orange cones and make your way through it and just have the crowd cheer your name and just feel good that you finished, this pretty challenging obstacle course.
Yes, very much so.
And speaking of challenging, this is a part of a platform that, some athletes have struggled with. Tell us a little bit about the strategy to get through this particular part.
This they call the jowl, and the reason why they call this the jowl is not because of the bars. And what happens is you have to be able to pop a wheelie and keep your wheelie popped the whole time, because otherwise, if you drop your wheelie, you can see he's got his casters in the front, in between the bars, and then you can't get your casters out. So you've got to pop a wheelie through the whole thing. The only thing is he's been through so much, your arms are already aching, so keeping that wheelie pop, you're really tired by now. But he's got to just keep popping a wheelie and move a little bit at a time. If he could hold the wheelie and go through it, that's the object, is keeping the wheelie the whole time. Oh, while you're going over these bars.
And he's slowly getting over it, and there he goes. And as you mentioned, I'm sure after all this, your arms are already tired, and then you realize, oh, I'm halfway through. So, when do your arms get tired, realistically?
Just thinking about it, my arms were starting to ache a little bit and get a little bit tight, but you stretch out, and I mean, like I said, a lot of this, if you practice, on a daily basis, as far as a lot of it is being able to pop a wheelie and hold your wheelie, so you just want to be able to do that. So one of the other things that they put in here to make it tricky is they put, the cones that say, the blue cones that you have to go backwards through it. Right now, he just did that. After going through it, you're really, really tired, and you've got to remember that you've got to do a 360, otherwise that's another disqualification. So you go, oh, I just made it through that bump, I'm going to go really fast and get out of here, and you got to remember, oh, I got to do a 360. So.
And yeah, the 360, and it's also challenging because you're on such a little platform there. To do a full 360, it's got to be challenging.
Right. Luckily, some of us are able, our casters are close in together, so you don't have to pop a wheelie, but you don't really know if your casters are gonna, otherwise you're gonna fall off, and every time somebody touches you, it's a 5-second penalty, so you don't wanna have to get caught, but you don't wanna fall off either,
right.
So, but yeah, as if you can just remember to pop the wheelie and turn around, or do the 360 even with your wheels down.
Yeah, this is, as you mentioned,
this is another thing where you've got to remember that you've got to back through those cones, and that they don't want it to be a speed course. That's why they make it so you got to back up. And in real life, there's places where you can't fit. The only way you can go through it is backwards. So this is another one that you need the strategy as far as you got to pop a wheelie and kind of walk it. Walk one side, wheel from one side and then to the other. Just pop from one side to the other. See how we got the one side, then you get the other, and kind of walk it through, popping a wheelie.
And there he goes. I call that the puzzle platform because it kind of looks like a puzzle, and it's very tricky because there's boards and pieces everywhere. And here comes a unique part of the obstacle course.
This is new for the Class 2s. We've never had to do this before. So it's sand first. So going on the beach, you can't just go out on the beach. And a lot of places, that you go to visit, there's sand. Like if you go to ball games and stuff, there's sand. You have to go to watch, your neighbors, and then they have the gravel, the little tiny gravel, and you just don't realize what it's like going through that in a wheelchair.
Yeah, and then to finish it off, you got to go through the big rocks. Talk about how some competitors have, thinner tires. Some competitors have more treaded tires. Talk about the advantages of having, treaded tires compared to the more thinner tires.
Well, obstacle course like this, where especially like, you know, going through the different terrain, you kind of want the all-terrain tires, like the mountain bike tires that I have on my wheelchair. And I mean, the smooth tires and the flat tires, those are for racing, you know, and for speed, you know, for wheelchair basketball and quad rugby and softball. But so they're the advantage on the flat parts, but then that disadvantage when you're trying to go through the different kinds of terrain.
Yeah, and this is also a different hard part of terrain because you gotta, you know, back your way through this U-shaped corner.
It's not straight back, so you can't just back up. You've got to look around and make sure that you go around a corner.
Yeah, and you don't want to knock over any cones. As you mentioned, the cones are, you know, second delays.
And every second counts, really. So
exactly.
Now here's another part. I mean, you know, I've been at a lot of places where the doors, they open up. And they do this on purpose because you have a door that opens up towards you, and then that you have to open, or all pushes in, and then a door that opens up towards you. And if you're an able body, you just walk through it. Where in a wheelchair, you don't fit with both doors open. So you've got to open the one before you can close the other one. And that's one of the other things that you could get disqualified in, is if the door isn't closed all the way, it has to latch. So if the officials will say, if you've done it, they'll say, okay. If you don't hear an okay, then you know the door hasn't shut, and you got to go back and push it in. So you can't just slam the door, because you see those cones up there. Every cone that blows up, that's 3 seconds, not just 1 second, 3 seconds.
Yeah, and as you said, it's, you know, this is an everyday type of obstacle that, you know.
I've run into that in restaurants all the time. They do that.
But here you can't slam the door shut. You know, as you mentioned, you gotta. It takes some strategy to, you know, gingerly make sure the door shuts, but not let the cones, you know, be knocked off, because as you said, every second counts. And every second counts because, you know, Holly, the top three. Talk about how the three competitors move on to the Super G.
Okay. Everybody wants to try and do, you know, a tougher course. Like the Class 2s are always saying, oh, can I just try the Class 3 course? Or, you know, you want to try a Class 4 course just to see if you could do it. So what they've come up to make it a little bit special is they've come up where they take the top 3 fastest times from each class, from Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, Class 5. But it doesn't matter if you're a master, a novice, which would be a first timer, a woman, or open division. So it's the fastest time, fastest 3 times, and they get to do the Super G, and that will be even tougher than this will be. But I mean, just being able to do that one, you know, it's quite challenging. So it's fun to do.
Have you participated in the Super G before?
I've done the Super G, yes. One other time I was able to make it.
And how much more difficult is that compared to this?
10 times more difficult, yes.
Is it a bigger course with more obstacles?
It's a bigger course, and they make it so that you have to power through a lot of the obstacles, and you know, they make it so, I know there's one place where you've seen a couple places where we've had to pop a wheelie, but you were able to let your front wheels down and there was no problem. In the Super G, they have where you actually have to go across rails, you know, and that they measure everybody's wheelchair before they leave here, the ones that make the Super G, and you have to pop a wheelie all the way through, you know, across the boards. Otherwise, you'll fall right through in the crack, you know, and you're up about 4 feet. So it's pretty challenging.
A challenging course, but Holly, you made it through this course, you know, this slalom pretty easily. So I'm very impressed to even see you do it. And you are, you know, a woman, and but you compete here with the men. Tell us what it's like to be a woman, to be able to compete, you know, and still, you know, do well against the men.
It's great, you know, being able to compete. I mean, I try and compare myself with the men because, you know, no matter what we're doing, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, you know, every day we're going to face these obstacles. So, you know, I have to be able to do them as well as a guy, and you know, I have to be able to cross the street or you know, go somewhere you know, if nobody's with me, then I want to be able to. I don't want to be able to say I can't go because I can't, you know, make it across the street without help. So, but yeah, it's always fun for a woman to be able to say I beat one of the guys' times.
Yeah, Holly, this is Holly Kester, competitor here in the slalom, sponsored by UPS here at the 30th Annual National Veterans Wheelchair Games. Holly, it was a pleasure having you here. You just gave us a lot of insight. That was perfect. And I'm Ryan Pelton for xable.com.